Alright, so in this video today we're going to talk about how the ITA works in Canada and how apprenticeship generally works.
Donkey's breath.
Alright, so just as I said, this video is about how an apprenticeship works and specifically how the ITA, so in Canada that's the Industry Training Authority, works. Specifically within the electrical field, it'll be slightly different from trade to trade. It also varies slightly from province to province. Now, I really can't comment on how anything in the States works. I believe some of the states are similar to our system and others are very different, especially within the electrical field, because I just don't know. This is not the video for it. This is Canada, this is British Columbia, this is the ITA. Now, I've made a couple videos before on subjects similar to this, like I told my apprenticeship story in one video here, link in the description, and had other pretty successful videos about just going over my tools as a first year and then most recently as a third year. If you're interested in those, go watch them, links in the description. But I'm going to try and stick to more or less the topic of the ITA and how it works. And most recently because there's a commenter that asked me about this and I'm like, I could just do a little talking video on this, explaining it instead of having to type out 2 paragraphs to try and answer his question. So to get started, here's what the question said. There's the comment. Let's see if I can pull it up properly. That's what he said. So he said something in there about becoming a helper first and then seeing if you could become an apprentice. I've never really seen that, just as a start. But anyways, you can either start by going to a pre-apprenticeship, like pre-app in a school, like I went to TRU in Kamloops, and then you could go anywhere really in the province or across Canada. You could do that and then get that. That gives you 350 hours towards your apprenticeship, and it also gives you your first year school. Now the next option is you don't go to school first, you don't do first year first, and you don't do pre-app first. And you just go out and find an employer that will take you on as an electrical apprentice from completely green. Now the reason I say I've never met an on-site helper, someone who's a designated helper so much. I've seen it tagged along with other trades like carpentry and stuff. I've seen them have helpers and cleanup guys on site, but I've never seen or heard of a company having an electrical helper, on-site helper. I've seen there's guys that work in the shop that, depending on what type of business you're working for, your employer, who do the shop, the sales floor stuff, and inventory management, but they're not on site, they're not helping the trades workers, they're in the back end supporting them. And that is one way you can do. You could start with that, then you get a decent base knowledge of some of the components within the trade, which could definitely make your apprenticeship easier. But my personal recommendation is if you want to become an electrician or another trade that is similar to this and how it's administrated, is to just start with the trade. Just dive right in. Find yourself a green position, a company that'll take you on as an apprentice, and they might not sponsor you right away with the ITA because they don't have to sponsor you right away. They don't really have to sponsor you. And what a sponsorship means is that they will go through the process, and that will allow you to become a registered apprentice, or I believe in Alberta and places they call it an indentured worker, and you get indentured within the trade. In BC, I've never really heard that term used. So then another thing you could do right away, like just sitting on your computer to my knowledge, is you could get yourself an ITA number, an Industry Training Authority. You can get yourself a number that will be tracking, you can get in their system. And you're gonna have to do this yourself at some point. I'm pretty sure you have to do it. So I did it myself before I had a sponsorship, because when I went through pre-app, I finished pre-app, didn't get those hours because I'm not really in the ITA yet. But as soon as, I believe this is how it works, as soon as you get your SIN lined up from your school and you get an ITA account registered with your SIN, your social insurance number, boom, a little bit later, your pre-app hours show up magically and everything just kind of fits together. That's how it worked for me. Other than that, you'd have to contact the ITA. And generally, depending on who you talk to in the ITA, it can be very easy to do so. You just talk and be like, hey, this is what I need. I can't remember what they're called. They are every area in British Columbia, and I presume other areas of the country as well. You have an area representative that covers that area. Like I think there's one just for Kamloops, and then there's 3 or 4 in the Lower Mainland. It's probably more actually, but you can see it on the ITA website. It's super easy, super easy. So then, I mean, all you got to do then is you're gotta find work. And I know some places in the Lower Mainland, I believe it's very competitive, and the wage is absolutely like horrible. Like we're talking like, I don't know. At the time of making this video, I don't think an unreasonable wage in the Lower Mainland for a first-year electrical apprentice. Like I think it's somewhere in the range of like $15. Never really been there, but that's what I believe it is. $15 an hour-ish for a first-year electrical apprentice. And where I live, it's pretty much the industry standard is 20 to 22, and then it just goes higher and higher the farther north you go. So if you really want to be in the trade, go up north, get out of like the Vancouver area for sure. So I've been kind of just going on a rant here. So I don't exactly know how to fully answer this question, and this has been a pretty ranty video, or an offshoot there, offshoot there. It's kind of been my experience working as an apprentice and through the ITA, and I hope it helps, but if it doesn't, I could readdress this topic in a future video, but just leave a comment, leave a question. Go watch my other videos if you're interested in more details of like my employer history and my story and how I went through things, because it wasn't the easiest thing in the world to get indentured, as some people say. But other than that, all you gotta do is work on your hours and go to school. But thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something. If you didn't, ask me what you need to ask. I'm always in the comments. Other than that, have a good day.